Good day, everyone. And thank you for joining us on AIFL's webinar dedicated to the city of Jerusalem. We'll focus today not on the standard features of Jerusalem, but upon its history, its political status, but rather on several features that are unrecognized by the public at large, but which have turned the city around to become a true modern metropolitan center that it is. Jerusalem today, as it has always been, is a diverse city. But today, this diversity, social, economic, and cultural, are leveraged to make it a modern city, appealing not just to tourists, but to residents, to innovation, and to business. We at the American Israel Friendship League are excited to sponsor this conversation. This is exactly the kind of outreach of information we're promoting. We've been around since 1971, and our focus is upon promoting the relationship between the people of Israel and the United States through enhancing the familiarity with what Israel is and what are some of the great and inspiring things that are coming from there. Today, we are continuing with our series of webinars dedicated to share in this vision. Jerusalem is truly an inspirational city on all dimensions. Ever since the 1860s, when a few small group of rebels left the walls of the old city to create the first neighborhoods in Jerusalem, Mishkenot Sha'ananim, Nahalat Shiva, the city has evolved to become the leading metropolis of Israel, a modern city that is a center of culture, innovative thought, and technology development. It's a city that has confronted social issues and encourages and supports social activism. We are here today to hear from some of the people who are at the focal point of these activities, who make it happen on a day-to-day. Fleur Hassan-Nahoum, Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem. Ms. Hassan-Nahoum is a recent entrant into city politics, having previously qualified as a barrister in London and after immigrating to Israel in 2001. She's dedicated time and effort to social issues, helping abandoned children, as well as being a communication expert. Today, Fleur is involved in advancing the rights of women and marginalized population groups in the city. Shai Doron, the president of the Jerusalem Foundation, came to the organization after being the executive director of the Jerusalem Biblical Zoo. Over his 25-year tenure, Shai advanced the zoo to become an internationally recognized center for wildlife conservation and one of Israel's most visited tourist attractions. Also with us are Ruth Diskin, Director of Projects at the Jerusalem Foundation, who leads culture and arts projects supported by the foundation. Ruth comes from a 25-year familiarity with many different areas of Israel art, including cinema and television. Also from the private sector, Amir Biram, having founded and being the CEO of JTLV Investments, Amir leads real estate and construction projects in both Tel Aviv and Jerusalem on all fronts, including residential, retail, offices, and hotel. Amir is also very actively involved in many charitable organizations, helping promote pro-social and pro-culture organizations. And together with Amir joined Yossi Klal, CEO of New Spirit, who comes from an Orthodox background, helping ultra-Orthodox with their integration into modern Israeli society. Just before we start, a couple of housekeeping points. The format of the webinar today will be questions that I will pose to the panel. We will also be showing in the background some images and video footage as we speak. We ask for the attendants to send out questions to the panel before the session, which we'll be adding as well. And if you still have questions, please use the chat within the webinar panel, and make sure you send it to the panelists only, not to all attendees. Time permitting, we'll get to these as well. We'll also be recording the webinar so people will have access to it after the session is ended. Thank you. So I'd like to start with Shai. Can you explain to us the Jerusalem Foundation? How does it work within the city?
Jerusalem Foundation was established by the legendary Mayor Teddy Kollek more than 50 years ago. Since it was established in 1966, the Jerusalem Foundation took care of raising support from all over the world, including Israel, to build the city of Jerusalem. Actually, more than $1.5 billion were invested in different projects and programs all over the city. We are working together with other authorities of the city, especially with the mayor and the municipality, but not only with that, we are always looking for partnership. The idea of the Jerusalem Foundation is to help the city to shape its future. Today, we are in a process that we are focusing on 3 new areas that will lead us to the next decade. It's going to be communal strengths, it's going to be creative culture, and the last focus is going to be future leadership. It's depend on our partnership with all our friends from all over the world, raising support, raising money from our friends from all over the world, and working together to accomplish the ideas to make Jerusalem a much better place to live in.
Thanks. Fleur, from your perspective, how do you work with the foundation? How do you sort of balance the interests so that it doesn't interfere or supplements the efforts by the city itself?
Well, we see the Jerusalem Foundation as an integral partner of the city of Jerusalem. We technically actually don't fundraise and not allowed to fundraise. We have no legal mechanism to bring money into the city, and therefore we see the Jerusalem Foundation historically also as the philanthropic arm of the city of Jerusalem. And so what we do is actually complement each other, complement the work that we do. There's many things that we can't do that the Jerusalem Foundation has even developed an expertise in culture, in arts, in developing different projects. And there's certain things, infrastructural projects, that only the city can do, but we can do in partnership together. And so we see this as a fantastic marriage of two of the leading bodies that actually lead the city together. The Jerusalem Foundation brings a wealth of talent, also lay leadership, and also professional staff. And the Jerusalem municipality, at the end of the day, the local government body. So they're more flexible, they're lighter. And so there's many occasions where they can do things that would take us a lot longer to do. And therefore, we love to be able to work together. And in their case as well, there are certain things that only the city can advance, that is good for the strategy that they've set for themselves. And so we are complementing each other in the work that we do. We have a similar vision for our city, and we work together hand in hand in order to create the reality of that vision.
Thank you. Ruth, shifting focus, Jerusalem is known for its historical value. Maybe you can shed some light on the modern day arts and culture.
Yes, first and foremost, the Jerusalem Foundation is the biggest philanthropic foundation that supports arts and culture in Jerusalem. We, about 3 years ago, we started a call for submissions for culture and art projects, according to which we call for proposals from all over the city, East and West, Orthodox, secular, Arab, Jew, minorities, everybody is what it's all about, what's going on in the city, to identify grassroots and to accompany them. And of course, to keep on supporting the project that we already established. The Jerusalem Foundation, during the first 25 years of its establishment, established some of the about 10 of the most significant cultural institutions in the city, such as the Cinematheque, the Han Theater, the Museum of Science, the Science Museum, and many others. And now we are keep on going in supporting these institutions, as well as investing time and money also in projects all over the city.
Thanks. Fleur, I mean, would you agree, how does the culture and art help you manage, I mean, you at the city management, how does that help you manage the day-to-day activities of the city?
Well, a very big part of Jerusalem's uniqueness is its creative class. And the fact that we have a diversity of population also brings an amazing diversity of culture We have the most diverse city in the country. 37% of our city are Arabs. We have 25% of our city ultra-Orthodox, 21% of our city are secular, and the rest is a mixture of traditional and religious people. And so we believe that diversity always creates the best innovation. And we're very proud, actually, of the innovation that we've developed in arts and culture. You know, in Hebrew we have an expression, Mitzion titzeh Torah, from Zion, Torah will come out. We see Torah as something much wider than Jewish land. We also see it as art and culture that is created here in Jerusalem, which is the heart of our people, not only our country. And so art and culture is an integral part of what makes us unique. It's an integral part of the development of our city. And also it's an integral part of keeping here a lot of the talented artists and creators in our city. And so the partnership that we have with the Jerusalem Foundation in terms of their support for arts and culture and our support for arts and culture, from our perspective, we need to develop the infrastructure that allows the Jerusalem Foundation to support the correct content, the right content that brings to the world the uniqueness of our city. And this is why it works so well with the Jerusalem Foundation. And this is why we're very, very proud of our city. We're very proud of the creative. We have the best design schools and art schools in the country we have in our city. And so what the Jerusalem Foundation does is strengthen the arts and culture in our city for our graduates. And what we try and do is create that infrastructure, also higher education infrastructure, and also in general infrastructure in the city for our artists to be able to flourish. So it's a very, like I said earlier, it's a very effective partnership, but also arts and culture is an integral part of the character and the uniqueness of our city.
Thanks. And definitely, I think you really see that today as you visit the city. Amir, from your perspective, how do you sort of see the promotion of city art and culture? How do you see that impacting the business environment?
Yes, in Jerusalem there are many universities and academies, and there are more than 50,000 students within Jerusalem. They study all kinds of things from medicine to brain studies and to art and design, as Fleur said, cinema, theater, all kinds of things. Now this creativity brings many opportunities to the business market. I'll give you an example. There are many like startups, new companies that created growing in the university. There are some like known companies. The most known from the last year was Mobileye, that was being sold for $15 billion. It was created here in the university. But there are others, like small startups that grown for a value of billion and more. They're like Lightrix, if you heard, it's a new unicorn that came from the Hebrew University. Now the Hebrew University understood that it want to keep this company here, to enable them to grow here in the city. And they understood that international companies want to be close to these students. So what the Hebrew University did, that they planned a new high-tech campus within the Givat Ram University in the center of Jerusalem. And it's quite a big campus of 80,000 square meters. And they just published a new tender 2 months ago. And the demand from real estate companies was huge because everyone understood the potential of this place. And in the end of the day, also my company bid in this tender, but unfortunately we didn't do it. But another bigger company than us took it, and the university got a really, really good proposal. And it's called the UGTech, the Hebrew University high-tech campus, so it's going now on the way. So it's something, it's real opportunity for Jerusalem that they will enable to keep all the young people with the creativity people here in Jerusalem. Another thing is that all the creativity campus like Bezalel and others are coming into the center of the city because the municipality understood that they wanted to bring them into the center city. And in few years, all these creative people will be here in the center city, like thousands of students that we're dealing with design, art, as I said before, theater and all kind will be in the center city, and I'm sure it will bring a lot of business opportunity, like from small businesses as restaurants, galleries, things like that, but also for tourism, etc. Because everyone wants to come here into the center city and to see. So many new opportunities all around this activity.
Thank you. Shifting gear for a moment, Shai, from zoo to foundation, how would you describe this transition?
I will never can, you know, it will ever stay the story of my life, the story that I did with the zoo. You know, you mentioned the achievement. The zoo became one of the, not one, number one tourist attraction in Israel with more than 1 million visitors annually. In places you need to pay tickets. It's rated in the top 50 zoos in the world. But you know, my biggest proud was not about the animals, not about the zoology, not about wildlife conservation. It was the fact that we created a place that it's a meeting place for everyone. You know, I mentioned before the legendary Mayor Teddy Kollek. I had the really fortunate time to working with Teddy as the chief of staff of the mayor when he was in his last term as the mayor. But he was the first one that really understood that the zoo, the new zoo that he really established in 1993, can, in a city like Jerusalem, we spoke about diversity, bring people together. This is the meeting place, island of sanity in town. So if I need to take something from my history as a zoo director and want to apply to my current work as the president of Jews Foundation, to bring people together from different backgrounds, from different communities, from different culture background, this is probably the most biggest challenge of my work today. So the story that I really will ever stay, the story of my life, what I did at the zoo, is reflecting my work today as bringing all the people of Jerusalem together to create the model of a city that people can live side by side together in an atmosphere that it's inspiring people and could serve as a model for the entire world.
So talking about really this kind of inspiration on the modern world, Fleur, I mean, do you feel that the uniqueness and the international dimension, does that help in the day-to-day operations of a city? How do you leverage that?
I think, as I said earlier, Jerusalem is a world city. It's a city which is the heart and soul of the Jewish people, as well as the capital of our country. And it's, as I said earlier, the most diverse city. So I guess the question is, how do you take its uniqueness, which in my view is the diversity of the city, and leverage it for the good of the city, for the development of the city? And we know in general from research and studies that diversity creates better innovation. When there's more varied people around a decision-making table, different minorities, decisions are better. And so in general, I feel that we're very lucky here to have an array of people making these decisions, and therefore the decisions are more inclusive and are better. But what are we doing in terms of leveraging our uniqueness? At the moment, unfortunately, we are still the poorest city in the country. And the reason why we're the poorest city in the country is because the two lowest socioeconomic groups in the country live in the largest numbers in the city. So like I said earlier, we have 37% Arabs, we have 25% ultra-Orthodox Jews. Now both these populations live way under the poverty line. The ultra-Orthodox 40 to 50%, and the Arabs about 80%. And that is really not acceptable. And then at the same time, these are talented populations that somehow or other, because of their respective educational systems, normally coming from the political reality, have let these populations down in terms of training them so they can be in a state of being part of the startup nation story that we have in Jerusalem for the past 7-8 years, like was mentioned earlier. And so what I see as a challenge, I also see as an opportunity, because we have these population groups that are thirsty for joining the mainstream careers that we have here in Jerusalem. And at the same time, the Startup Nation at the moment is about 10,000 engineers short, another 5,000 high-tech workers short, non-technological oriented. So we have 15,000 jobs that we need to find human capital for in the country. And then you have these two population groups in the city that are really ready to go into further education, to be educated and to join the workforce and to be part of the prosperity of Jerusalem and to be part of the prosperity of the state of Israel. So what we do in the Jerusalem municipality and with the help of the Jerusalem Foundation is we build a bridge between opportunity and challenge. We build a bridge between this human capital that we have in these two populations that unfortunately are living in not a great state at the moment, but the young generation really do want to be part of the prosperity of the city and the prosperity of the Startup Nation. And so what we do in job training, in education, in scholarships, even in art development, what we do is build the bridge between the challenge and the opportunity that the city has to offer, because I truly believe that because we all live in one city, it's like living in one boat. You can't say there's a hole on one side of the boat and we're on the other side, it's not going to go down. It's in all our interest for all population groups to prosper in this city. In the last 7 years, there's been an amazing connection, reconnection of Jerusalem as a city to the Startup Nation. We have an unprecedented partnership between academic institutions here and industry. Like was mentioned earlier, we have a new campus being set up in one of the universities. We have innovation centers in every university. We have innovation centers in every college. And so what we have here is in Jerusalem, we really know how to create beneficial partnerships that are strategic for our city. We've done it with academia and industry. We do it between all the different groups. We do it between philanthropy and the private sector. We do it between the city and philanthropy and the city and the private sector. We know how to get together for the good of our city. And so this is, I think, one of our advantages. Like I say, we're not hiding that we are very challenged in terms of our socioeconomic status at the moment, but we choose to see this as an opportunity to connect the populations that need to be developed with the prosperity of the Startup Nation and the innovation ecosystem which exists today in Jerusalem.
Thanks. Yossi, shifting over to you quickly, because with your background growing up as an Orthodox, Fleur talked about the very large Orthodox community, and how do you see it from the community side on how they're getting on ways of integration, and how do you see that actually impacting and supporting and helping the efforts at the growth and the business and the culture and the diversity of the city? And do you really see a place for so many voices to exist in one city?
So, absolutely, yes. And I think one very special thing that we have in Jerusalem is that it works for us, and sometimes it also works against us, is the fact that Jerusalem is the heart of the Jewish nation, and it's the heart of a lot of nations. It's for thousands of years, everyone wanted to control Jerusalem. So even now, within Judaism, you have a few sectors that are working and hoping to have Jerusalem for themselves. And I feel like today, with what's happening, you see a lot of young ultra-Orthodox Jews that are not interested anymore with the politics, the large politics of what's going to be the idea of Islam. It's not a war that anyone is going to win. It's been fought for many years, and now you see more and more ultra-Orthodox Jews, from my family and my friends, who are all saying, we want to work, we want to be a part of this success, we want to be a part of a very successful Jerusalem, and Jerusalem has been succeeding for the past tens of years in a very significant way, and everyone wants to be a part of it. I think it's not just for the ultra-Orthodox, I think it's also for the Arab community, saying we want to be a part of this, we want to take part in this growing economy and culture that's doing something very unique, that's very unique for Jerusalem. There's no other place like it in the world. Things we're dealing with today, the world or the rest of Israel will be dealing with in 10 years and in 20 years. So we are, as Fleur said, we are the innovators for the future of Israel. And you do see a lot of my former community, from the Orthodox community, integrating into the Israeli society. Absolutely.
So, jumping over to, Ruth, do you see, I think that what Yossi is saying is actually quite interesting with bridging. Do you see an increase in citywide social activism?
Yes, definitely. And we at the Jerusalem Foundation, we are looking for projects that will enhance or that will facilitate further social activism. And I will mention a few projects that we supported and we think that complement to this issue. For example, Graffidos. It's a combination of graffiti and DOS. It's a project that took place in an ultra-Orthodox community, and the artists that led this project were non-Orthodox, were secular people, and that was a way for them to express all kinds of wishes and aspirations, and also to connect between ultra-Orthodox and secular people. That was one idea that comes to mind. We have a very special dance camp company in Jerusalem called Between Heaven and Earth, where 3 religious men are dancing, and combine in every piece of dance that they do, they combine something between historical and contemporary, between religion and secularism, between body and spirit. So it's, again, it's a way of saying things and make a change. I will also refer to Musrara Nadar School. It is situated in one of the most interesting neighborhoods in the city, and Musrara. And it is constantly collaborating with the neighborhood, working with the neighborhood, and do all kinds of activities, social and cultural activities that enhance the social activity.
הוא עשה מיוט, זה מאצלו.
Microphone.
Amir, from your side, how do you see basically businesses supporting social activism?
Yes, I'll tell you. By the way, that's how I met Yossi. I'll tell you my story. For years, business and social activity was not something that going together be the only connection between business and social activity, that the business may donate money, but it was not something that going day to day together. But I think this today it's changing, and if we're talking about mixed usages, properties that contains residential, hotels, commercial, things like that. Today we're speaking about mixed usages that is together with social activity. And I want to give you my example. Maybe what we did as a company. We did many projects in Jerusalem. We built, we developed, but maybe the main story, our best experience in Jerusalem is something that we did in the last 5 years. We bought a land that next to the market. By the way, it's a market. If you don't know this market, everyone has to go to see it, because maybe it's one of the diamonds of Jerusalem, that you can see there all kind of people. Just what we spoke before, from ultra-Orthodox to Arabs to Jews, all kinds of people meeting there, going to the restaurants, having fun, one next to another. So we bought a land just next to the market, and in the middle of this land there was an old building, an historic building that was built in 1882. It was a school, and when we bought the land, this house was really neglected, empty, dirty, and with bad usages that you can imagine. So when we bought it, first we cleaned it, and then by coincidence we met like a group of young, creative group of young people, and they told us, listen, we're looking for a place it can be something like even temporary for our groups. So maybe you have an idea. And I said, listen, please come to see this place. And they said, you know, this is the place for us. So we gave them the building free of rent, and they are already in the last 5 years in the building with all kind of creativity groups of dance and music and all kind of art, and they really did a miracle in this building. And it's amazing to see what happened in this building. There are like parties that you never imagined that these parties are in Jerusalem. There are events of all kinds of really something that you know people need to see, that to believe that it's here in Jerusalem. So it's really, you know, and it's really first, you know, warm our heart to see what we can do with the social people here in Jerusalem. Second thing, I think what it gave to us as developers, you know, when we come into a city like Jerusalem, and we don't want that the people will see us like developers coming and building a huge project, but also we are part of the community. We want to hug the community, and the community is hugging us back, and that's really what happened. And the last thing, you know, that we understood that if this activity is part of our project, in the end of the day, you know, we have the benefit of this of the spirit of these people, these creativity people that are part of our place and our project, and it's really bringing another life to the project. So these are now more and more developers and business people understood that the mix of businesses and social activities is something that is going great together.
Jonathan, can I make 2 general comments? I don't want to ruin the party, and it sounds great, but I think that the beauty of what we are doing, both the city, Fleur and Amir and Yossi and the Jerusalem Foundation, it's with a lot of sensitivity. Without being very sensitive to the different voices and the diversity, it will never happen. Working with the Haredi community, for example, if you're going to fight, or you will patronize, or you think that you are smarter than them, it will not work. If you will not adapt and hug grassroots initiatives from the Haredi community, it will not work. If you think that you know better because you are secular, you went to university, it will not work. The same is with the Palestinians that live in Jerusalem. We're speaking about more than 300,000 Palestinians that live here. I recommend all of you to go and read the last weekend article wrote by Nir Hasson in the Haaretz magazine about the new trends of the Palestinians that live in Jerusalem, about deciding in the end, we are living here. It's not about politics. It's about the day-to-day life. And if we can find the right partnership about this, not about the big issues of politics, because we don't have no influence about politics. Maybe the city has a little bit, but the Jerusalem Foundation for sure not. And if we are not listening carefully to sensitivity that, again, part of it was written by Nir Hasson in the last article in the Haaretz magazine lately, last weekend, we will not do nothing. So sensitivity in Jerusalem, with all the diversity, or from now on, let's call Jerusalem diverse city. This what make us, both the city, the mayor, deputy mayors, and the Jerusalem Foundation, with the chance to succeed. The business sector, sector without sensitivity, Amir is a great example of how, with the right approach, with the right sensitivity, even if they are neighbors to one of the most Orthodox community in Jerusalem, there are no conflicts between them. And they are doing totally what called secular activities. And they live side by side peacefully. And this is the opportunity, or this is the challenge that we need to understand in Jerusalem. You can't be all the time the one that know all the answers. You need to listen very carefully and to work with a lot of sensitivity.
Absolutely.
I think that is an excellent summary. Thank you. So, but with that in mind, let's really just go around the table quickly. A general question for each one of you is, what is it that about the city that keeps you up at night? Fleur, why don't we start from you?
Well, there's a lot actually that keeps me up at night. But
The top five, the top three.
There are things that hurt me. There are things that I worry about, but there are things that really hurt me on a very kind of gut level. And that is the idea that not every child in the city have the same opportunities. Because of the education system, because of the family they were born in, because of the neighborhood they were born in, or because of the, you know, of the group of people that they were born in. And this is one of the things that we're all very conscious, and Shai said it, you know, we're all very sensitive. And what it really means is that we're all very aware of the socioeconomic gaps that we have in our city. And one of the things that everything we're doing here, whether it's high tech, or whether it's building, or whether it's arts and culture, everything we do in this city has to revolve around creating a situation where everybody has equal rights here, but what we're fighting for is equal opportunities. That's what we're fighting for. I want a child that is born in Pisgat Zev, or in Bet Zafafa, or in any other neighborhood of Jerusalem, to be able to have the same educational opportunities, to be able to have the same type of potential to their future, the same type of higher educational opportunity, and the same type of job opportunities. So everything we're doing at the end of the day is to even the playing field for the future of our children. Like Yossi said earlier, the Jerusalem is not just the most special city, I believe, in the world, but it's also the mirror of the future state of Israel. So in 20 years' time, this same diversity that we have here is going to be reflected in the demography of the entire state of Israel. And therefore, Jerusalem today is the laboratory for the solution for closing those gaps of opportunities. That is really what we're doing here. And that's why what we're doing here is not just good for the citizens of our city. It's good for the entire country, and I believe also for the region. I believe that if we managed to crack here how we create a really true shared society, equal opportunities for all the different groups here, then we can crack the same challenge that the future state of Israel is going to have, and the challenges we see in the Middle East today. So I believe that Jerusalem, like I said, is the laboratory for the solution, not just for the country, but for the entire region and the future of our region.
Thanks. Shai?
Yeah, after Fleur, she spoke so well about really the opportunity for the future. I don't need to be so serious, you know. I for so many years didn't sleep for so many nights. When I was the chief of staff of the mayor, I really worked 24/7 around the clock. And as a zoo director, you know, suddenly a burst of elephants, so you need to be wake up. Now I want to enjoy the privilege of being a president, and the others should not sleep so well.
Now it's different.
Yeah, now it's a different elephant. I'm swimming at night, so I'm not swimming as well now. I am not sleeping as well. I'm swimming late night. So no, I think that really, Fleur, the opportunities that we can really give equal opportunities to the entire diversity of communities in Jerusalem for the future, because it's not only the reflection of the city in the future, the reflection of entire Israel and maybe of the Jewish world.
Wow, okay. Yossi?
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. I'm just gonna strengthen what Fleur said and say that for many years, the talk about Jerusalem was, we're losing the city. What are we going to do with the city? How are we going to fight to make sure that everyone could stay here? And looking back, I think everyone that was in power did a good job, because we're not losing the city, and the city is just booming. And if you come visit Jerusalem, there's nowhere you could go where you're not going to hear tractors working and building the future of the city. And the communities are getting stronger and changing and shifting their shape and form to be more inclusive, to be able to accept other communities within the city. And this is our time to capitalize on this potential that was sort of, we weren't able to reach, and now we sort of have the ability to access and to be able to work with. And I'm very optimistic for the future.
Good.
We're all optimists, that's why we're here.
We are following the young people, no?
Amir?
Yes, I'll tell you something, you know, from the day to day, not what I love the most in Jerusalem is the mix of the people. You know, the fact that you meet different people every day. It's not like everyone is like you. You meet from ultra-Orthodox to Arabs to all kinds of people, and everyone is different than you, but in the end of the day, we live together, and we can live very good together. So if, you know, we forget the high politics that interfere, the relationship between people, I believe that in the end of the day, you can see that people, different people can live in the best way together. You know, I told Yossi, we sat in my office together an hour ago, and I told Yossi, you know, in Jerusalem, like 10 minutes from the office, I can go, and I do it sometimes. Shai, you can come with me. No, I tell you when, you don't know. I'm going to the old city.
We met last time. We met in the old city. Nearby the
5 minutes from the place that we met, there's a place of Nargila.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there, you know, taking a Nargila. And next to me can sit someone Arab from the Negev that came just for the mosque in Friday. And you sit next to him and you talk like two persons, you know, and it's amazing. And then you're coming back on the train, you meet a ultra-Orthodox guy that, by the way, in my office, Yossi knows, there are many like ultra-Orthodox that working with us. And you see that, you know, in the end of the day, we are all people. And we can live the best together. And that's Jerusalem.
Ruth, what is it that keeps you awake at night about the city?
First and foremost, I say the earth without art is just earth. So we have to keep the art in earth, otherwise earth doesn't mean anything and is not. I'm a big lover of art and culture and a big believer in art and culture. And sometimes it worries me because it costs a lot, and there are so many beautiful projects that are submitted to us and that are offered to us and that we encounter, and I wish we could have enough money to support everything that we see. Because as everybody on this panel said, there are so many beautiful projects that are coming from Jerusalem and that are grassroots that can live and can flourish only in Jerusalem. And I wish we would be able to support them more and more, much more than we do. So that's one thing that worries me. But the other thing is, I think that publicity-wise or marketing-wise, we are way, way behind Tel Aviv. And it bothers me because so many things are very good are happening here and nobody has a clue. Nobody knows. And even for me, a Jerusalemite, and for my father's side, I'm 5th generation in Jerusalem. And I still, before I started working at the Jerusalem Foundation, I felt that in comparison to what I know now, I really knew nothing. So I encourage people really to come to Jerusalem, to explore the city, to be here, to see what we're doing, because marketing-wise, as I said, we are way, way behind, and I wish we could find a better solution to this huge problem.
So talking about really, there's another question from the audience over here is about how has the culture changed over the last few years, or has it? And the person asking the question says that she traveled to Jerusalem several years ago, and there seems to be a rising atmosphere that young people are dancing, having fun evening, and just hanging out. Ruth, do you want to address that maybe?
I can say that one of the things that I could say that definitely shifted or changed in the last decade is the notion of placemaking. You can see so many events, cultural events taking place these days that you would not expect to see them in the places that are taking place right now. I will give a few examples. For example, a dance company, a dance group dancing between the sculptures of the Israel Museum. A street orchestra, Jerusalem street orchestra playing in a garage, in a mustach, in a garage near in the industrial zone of Jerusalem. All kinds of events and cultural events that are taking place in different places, in surprising places, in places that you would not think of as a place for culture and art. And that's something that's very innovative, and you could see it more and more happening in the last decade.
Thanks. Another question is, and I'm going to refer this to Shai and to Fleur actually, is how do you see Jerusalem and the United States communicating at the different levels that we've been talking about today, the social, the cultural, what kind of platforms and what kind of topics do you see sort of like bridging the gaps, and how effective are these?
So I'll start by saying I hold the portfolio in City Hall for international relations, which I'm very, very happy about. And one of the things that we've been doing, I've been working very hard with the American government for the building of the new embassy. They moved the embassy, but now they're building a new embassy. And every embassy that the American government builds is a work of art in itself. If you look at the embassies that they've built around the world, they're really beautiful works of art as buildings, architectural marvels. And so first of all, just on a physical level, I'm very excited that we're going to be having a brand new embassy being built here in our city. And the embassy being in our city brings us a lot of opportunities for many more collaborations than we had in the past. We will have the cultural attaché, the economic attaché, everybody based here, be able to work from the American government with the city directly on advancing all sorts of projects. In the last few months, I've been very involved with speaking to members of the government about how we advance equal opportunities in our city for all residents of our city, and the American government is going to get much more involved. In terms of Americans and culture, I also hold the tourism portfolio, and I hope to be able to reach out to a much wider audience, to be able to come and be a part of the beauty that is Jerusalem, to come and visit Jerusalem, for people to realize, like Ruth touched on earlier, the marketing sometimes doesn't get through, but people to realize that this is not only, the holy city, and this is not only a 3,000-year-old city, but this is also kind of a fun city that you can come on a holiday, bring your family, enjoy the culture, like any other city that you would go to anywhere around the world, and actually even more special because of the past and because of its exciting future. And so we're working on a governmental level with the American government. We're working on a tourism level to bring more Americans here. And of course, we have a lot of Americans who immigrated to this city, and they are a very important part of the building of this, and they're a very important part. They contribute greatly to philanthropy in the city, to the non-profit world in the city, to arts and culture in the city, and to business in the city. And so we'll always have a lot of areas of connection. We always have a lot of areas of collaboration. And I just see this now growing much stronger in the future.
I don't have the same privilege like Fleur, because she's the senior deputy mayor and she can speak a little bit of politics. This you asked me earlier, it could lead to me involved with politics, and this is not, for sure, not my field. But I tell you that I would like just a small example. The American Embassy here in Jerusalem is a great supporter of beautiful initiative of sport. Jews and Arab kids are playing in the neighborhood league by a great initiative of local Jerusalemites called Hapoel Katamon. And they receive a lot of support from the American Embassy. If this is the direction that we are working together in the future, great. don't ask me about politics. Fleur did it much better than me, but I'm telling you, if the embassy here, or different other American agencies, federal agencies as well, or even local agencies can support initiative, civil society initiative like the Neighborhood League of Soccer, it will be a great city of Jerusalem.
So Shai, I mean, taking that last question out of the sphere really of politics, what about at the community levels? Because I would imagine that you interact more with the United States at the community level, and so how would you answer that question? When you
it's very, very clear. Without creating real partnership with our supporters from America, it will not work. And again, we need to find the ways together with our supporters from America, and not only from America, to create the right partnership, to the right causes, and then to address two things. First of all, that we have the local community support. It's very important to our friends in America for sure. Without supporting initiatives and example like Amir, that he is a businessman that is doing good business in Jerusalem, but he is willing to cooperate with different civil society or initiative, it will not work. The Americans, supporters of Jerusalem Foundation, not only of Jerusalem Foundation, always now looking for real partnership with local people. Second thing that we should, again, and this is why it's so important for us to work so closely with the mayor and his deputies, is to find the resources to match support from overseas. Without matching, again, it will not work. Definitely, it's not going to work. That's why we are so happy now that we have, since long time, I think that it's going back to the days of Teddy Kollek that established the Jerusalem Foundation. Of course, the relationship between the Jerusalem Foundation and the city. The first time that under Moshe Liron as the mayor and Fleur Hassan-Nahoum as deputy mayor, that her portfolio is exactly dealing with that. I think it's the best period ever since long time that the cooperation that can attract more support to Jerusalem happening right now.
Okay.
We're very proud of that.
Final question from the audience as we start to wrap up is with regard to the recent sort of heating up in the Middle East, especially with Iran. How do you see that impacting the city?
Well,
It's not.
I'll tell you what's going on with Iran in my portfolio. The members of the Iranian community in Israel came to me because they want to build a cultural center dedicated to Iranian Jews. And I'm very much helping them do that. But seriously, look, I think that, thank God, we, as opposed to the image that we have sometimes in the media, Jerusalem is one of the safest cities in the world. We have very, very low crime here. I have 4 kids. They walk around freely in our neighborhood. My family in London don't let their kids walk around freely in their neighborhoods. And so we live in actually a very safe city. We live in a city where you really don't hear about the horrible things you hear in other capital cities. And so even though, of course, the Iranian conflict with whoever it'll be concerns us on a macro level, on a day-to-day level, we live peaceful lives. We live in a shared city. We all go to the gym or work with different communities, ultra-Orthodox Arabs, like was said earlier. And that really is how you do peace and coexistence. It's not about people coming from the top. It's about creating peace and coexistence from the grassroots. As long as we keep our focus on that, that's what we have to be dealing with, and not what's going on a micro level, which, please God, won't be touching us.
You asked before what keep us awake at night. we have enough. Leave something to the prime minister or the chairman of the opposition. They need to
work.
To work, yeah. So why we have enough on our
The elephant,
yeah.
not the Iranian.
So I'd just like to reiterate that last point is I was actually in Jerusalem last week with a group of people and just it was exactly after the whole Iran thing, and frankly it was an afterthought. I mean, the members of the group, they felt nothing, and the only way they knew about that there was an issue was through the news and through the media. And Shai, I think you talked before about the shuk. Amir actually talked about the shuk in Machne Yehuda. I just want to reiterate that point. I find that to be one of the most fascinating parts. Is you go to this place that is literally a market at daytime, and it is one big party at nighttime.
We like to party. We say that about the people in the city. We like to work hard, but we like to play hard also.
So, and I think that's a great story to tell, and I think it's very uplifting. And I think I think this story is not just a laboratory for Israel. I think it's a laboratory that we can use internationally in the world around us. So thank you very much. Thank you everybody for sharing your stories, and looking forward to hearing some more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, if you want.